Right, hello everybody. This is just a quick informational video about AutoFire in Star Trek Online. I've had a lot of people ask me about how they make my AutoFire work, because the way I have it set up is typically different to how most people do that I've seen. And I have it set up specifically like this to give a smooth firing pattern on the weapons. This can come in quite handy because the typical thing is to mash the spacebar, and I found when you do that it doesn't quite fire the weapons correctly, or you'll find that multiple weapons are trying to fire at the same time and they just don't, it's not smooth, doesn't quite work. So I'm going to jump in this patrol a minute and do it how the default settings of the game normally have it, and you'll hopefully be able to see what my weapons are doing. You'll see that they aren't firing smoothly, or they're not firing at all, or the cooldowns are all messed up. And then I'm going to show you how to apply the settings that I normally use, and then hopefully you'll see the difference in the way the firing pattern works, and you can go and try it out for yourself. It's very easy to set up. You don't need any third-party software for keybinds, whatever, running in the background. You can stick to the traditional spacebar to fire, but hopefully this should give you a sort of better example. I know most people, or not most people, I know some people have AutoFire on. Just for this example, I am gonna, it doesn't even let me enable AutoFire for some reason. But nevertheless, I'm going to attack these targets, mash the spacebar, and you'll see what happens. So I'm not quite sure if this is coming through, but you'll see the actual weapons are constantly highlighting white all the time as they're trying to decide which one should fire first, especially when I'm facing the target. You should be able to see that there. Sorry about the noise of the spacebar, of course. But generally the weapons are firing not too bad for me. I've seen worse cases of this issue with other players. It seems to work, it seems to get worse if AutoFire is on. I don't actually know why mine isn't enabled right now. I think it's because I changed the setting back earlier on, but I'll explain what this does in a minute. I think I had it set like that. Yeah, I can't even enable AutoFire on my guns for some reason. But nevertheless, the traditional thing, like I say, is to mash the spacebar, fire all your weapons, and just hope for the best. So I'm going to get out of combat a minute and change these settings around to show you the difference of how my ship actually fires its weapon. Of course, this might take a while with me being stuck here. But I can just sit under cloak, it'll be fine. So, first things first is I'm going to jump into options and go to controls. Down at the bottom here you've got auto attack setting. I'm going to change this to toggle and never cancels. Once you've done that, hit OK. Then I'm going to hopefully, right, now my auto target's working. So when you right click on these weapons, it gives you a green box around them for auto fire, and then if you left click the weapon or left click any of the weapons, it will trigger auto fire. So auto fire is switched on. Now when you right click these weapons, the order that you click them in is the order that the weapons are going to fire. So if you're running, say, you know, like loads of beam banks on the front, you're not going to really care about which order they fire in. However, if auto fire is set by default when you put the weapons on, it doesn't give the beams a order in which they fire. So when you're in combat, you'll find that all of your weapons are trying to fire at the same time, and they kind of get choked up on each other when they're trying to all set themselves away at the same time. So I would always do this regardless of which way you're doing it. But if you have a set of weapons on the front like I do, where I have different torpedoes, I like to have my weapons firing in a certain order, and you might like to have that too. In this case, the quantum torpedo I have on the front is the torpedo I want to be firing the most often. So it actually goes from the left to the right in this case. So when I enable AutoFire on these weapons, I want to right click from the left to the right. And then I'll also click this mine as well. So when my weapons are firing, it's going to go quantum, plasma, and then dark matter. But if the cooldown is available, if the weapon is ready to fire, if the quantum is ready to fire, it will always pick this weapon first. So that is the most frequent firing weapon on the ship. Second thing I do is I choose a weapon, normally a 360 weapon. If you don't have one, it's fine, you can do it with any weapon you like. But I choose a weapon that is not set to auto-fire. In this case, it's an omnidirectional I have on the back, and that is set to, I have it set to a controller button, that's why it says Joy 10 on there. You can set that to any key you like. You can continue to use spacebar with this, I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But you set that weapon to your key that you want, and then the rest of the weapons will continue to fire automatically in the order that you set, without needing to constantly mash the spacebar. You only need to press the spacebar every time you want to fire the 360 beam. And this doubles as a targeting lock as well. So when you press the spacebar, it acquires the target that you're looking at normally, or the nearest target, and then the rest of the weapons will automatically start firing it in the order that you want, and it's always smooth. They don't get choked up on each other or anything like that. So if I spin around and start firing at something now, always remember, by the way, to left click one of the green boxes and it will set auto fire on, and it will not disable until you leave the map that you're in, so that it remains on the whole time. It doesn't keep turning off every time you switch target or anything like that. Just drop out a cloak here, and if I fire a 360 beam, you see that all the weapons are firing in the correct order by themselves. And I don't have to keep mashing the spacebar every second in order to keep things firing. And it goes quantum, plasma, and then dark matter in that order that I set. If I actually click off this target and don't have anything selected, firing the 360 beam on the back will automatically reacquire the target and then start the automatic weapons again. This just makes it a little bit easier, because you'll find that, like say, pressing the spacebar when things aren't quite set up. I've seen it before. I'm watching streams of people play this game where the weapons are all getting choked up trying to fire at the same time, and I've seen it before where the weapons aren't firing in the order that they would like, or half the weapons aren't even firing, something like that. This just makes it nice and easy and smooth, and it doesn't share sort of activation cooldowns with your abilities either. So again, spacebar, because you're constantly mashing it, activating that keybind all the time, you might find that abilities don't seem to fire off when you want them to either. This should hopefully free that up a little bit as well, so you can be firing your bridge officer abilities without needing to constantly press the spacebar at the same time as well. But obviously this is going to matter on what your keybinds are. If you're using the default ones that the game has, then this will work for you just fine. If you have anything custom set up, you might find you can integrate it into that if you want to, but just be aware that if you have custom keybinds or you have third-party software running on this, it might mess that up a little bit, so your results may vary. Last thing I wanted to do was just show you how to set a keybind if you want to use a different button just for the single weapon. So if we go into options and go to keybinds, and then you scroll down to the very bottom, and this shows all of the skills for each section in the tray. So I have the beam sitting in the third slot here, and it's set, the skill 3 first row is where you would change the keybind. So you just click on that. I'm holding the button right now. You click on that and press whatever key you want, and it sets it to that key, and that's it. So if you are used to using spacebar to fire, then just pick spacebar, or you can pick anything in it. But yeah, I hope this helps. This generally helps me out quite a lot. I think it's so easy to fire weapons like this. Just having all of your weapons run off one weapon individually rather than trying to fire them all at the same time. I think it makes it a lot easier to shoot. It makes it a lot easier to acquire your targets, especially when you've got things flying about all over the place. If you happen to be a PvP player like I am, you'll know that players can be very fast nowadays, so it's easy to acquire a target from firing your weapons rather than needing to click on them or press tab, I think it is normally, to select targets. But hopefully this will help for you. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer them best I can. You can post it in the comments down below. But yeah, I hope you find this useful.